Greetings, Jellyspoons! Welcome back to Monday Madness, and this, the grand final of the musical's Battle Royale. Shameless moment of self-plugging here before we start. If you would like to support me, you can join my Patreon supporters on Patreon. You get pictures of my dog, you get to support me, you get to learn different things, see behind the scenes, find out what I am doing, and vote on things before everybody else. If you'd like to back me on Ko-fi, which is not like Patreon where you have to do it every single month, it is a one-off whenever you would like to thing. And also on Ko-fi you can find my commissions page where I do personalised in-character messages as well. So please support me in any way that you would care to. You can join the Patreon or the Ko-fi, commission me a personalised character message, and of course chuck a like down on this video, and of course subscribe to the channel if you have not. Welcome to the chaos, my fellow Jellyspoons. Let's begin. I'm going to go into brief detail about the following things. Number one, the main characters of each musical. Number two, the opening number. I'm also going to talk about set designs and costumes. I'm also going to talk about the end of Act 1, so Act 1's finale. I will also discuss antagonists, and of course, the finale number, the absolute finale of both shows as well, and what impact that has. Just for fun, because I discovered I had a few of these while I was writing this information out. After that, I will also give some hot takes / other ideas and thoughts on both of these musicals today, followed by, at the very end, some fun facts about both of the shows. After that, at the very end of the video, I will also give you some recommendations. So if you liked either of the musicals that are in the grand final, then I will recommend some other musicals that are in a similar vein that you might also enjoy. So, let us get into it. I think the first musical that made it through to the grand finale should surprise absolutely nobody. It is the gravity-defying Wicked. So, that just leaves one more. What was the second most popular musical that you guys voted for in the comments and has made it through to the final? Well, of the 6 musicals in the semi-final, we had Wicked, which of course is through. We had Hadestown, we had Rent, we had Sweeney Todd, we had The Lion King, and of course we had West Side Story. Shall we go early 2000s and do it like we're on the X Factor? Okay. And making it through to the grand final is 20 minutes later. Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street. So I would like to put a content and trigger warning up front at the beginning here, just to let you guys know that some of the content I will be discussing today, very briefly, very quickly, no details given, but nonetheless, it could trigger some people. So some of the topics I'll be brushing past include sexual assault to the extreme, death, gore, violence, sort of suicide, abuse, domestic and otherwise, the R word, and yeah, things of that nature. So, starting with point of comparison number 1, the main characters. Sweeney Todd is the alias of the barber Benjamin Barker. Wow, Benjamin Barker the barber, good god, man. Benjamin Barker used to have a perfectly happy, normal life. He had a wife and an infant daughter, and he was working as a barber in London. Then, Judge Turpin took a fancy to his wife, and so shipped Benjamin Barker off on false charges, where he was convicted and sent away to Australia to serve his sentence. Many years later, he came back with vengeance on his mind, seeking out his wife and his daughter. It is a story of how a man can be twisted and warped into a complete villain, a murderous, homicidal maniac, based on horrible things happening to him and those he cares about. On a slightly lighter note, we have Wicked. Elphaba, an unfortunate soul who was born with green skin, who suffers from bullying, is eventually tricked because of the magical powers she possesses, and tries to do good, but ultimately ends up failing at every turn. No matter what she does, no good deed goes unpunished, and she ends up being treated as the villain. We also have Galinda, the popular, bubbly blonde who wants nothing more than fame and success and popularity, and ultimately learns through various different friendships and relationships that sometimes what you want and what you need are two very, very different things. Moving on to point number 2 then, the opening number. Now, Wicked starts with No One Mourns the Wicked, an ensemble number which actually takes place at the end of the story. We are told straight up front that the Wicked Witch of the West is dead, so immediately we know the end of the story. The ensemble sings about how it's good news she's dead, she's finally dead, the wickedest witch there ever was is dead. Galinda comes down and speaks to the Aussians. She explains that things may not be as simple and black and white as they have been led to believe, but she goes on to explain her story, which ultimately takes us back in time to dear old Shiz and tells us the story of the Wicked Witch of the West. One of the massive themes that is explored throughout the entire story of Wicked is set up right in the opening number, and it is the question of whether people are born wicked at all. The opening number of Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street, is the prelude / the Ballad of Sweeney Todd. I spoke about this in the last video because I think it's a fantastic song, and if you're just going to look up one from the show, that is one of the ones I would recommend. Just like Wicked, the Ballad of Sweeney Todd, the opening of Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street, is an ensemble number. However, in comparison to Wicked, it starts with one voice, and then another joins, and then another joins, and as every line continues, more and more and more voices build and build and build, and we meet our chorus. They set him up as a quite literal monster. They say his skin was pale and his eye was odd, and then Sweeney Todd himself appears. He emerges, depending on the show. Sometimes he's in a light, sometimes he rises from the grave. Personally, I like him rising out of a grave, but he appears and he joins in. There is no mention made of Benjamin Barker at the beginning of Sweeney Todd. We learn this from Sweeney himself a couple of songs later into the show. So, those are the two opening numbers from Wicked and Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street. Judge as you will. I will now go on to the next point, which is sets and costumes. We're going to start with Sweeney Todd this time. Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street, is gothic and gory, and the sets and the costumes always reflect this. Every single set, every single costume, no matter what the production, is pretty unsaturated. It is dismal, it is dark, it is gloomy. Most of the costumes are dark, tattered, and torn, with the exception of Joanna, the Judge, Beadle, and to a certain extent, Anthony. So going on to Wicked now, I did some research into both of these and I was not surprised to discover that Wicked has over 250 separate costumes. That did not surprise me at all. I also discovered they have about 90 wigs. Equally unsurprising. In comparison to Sweeney Todd, Wicked is very, very bold and very, very colourful. All of the animal characters as well, they have fantastic animal prosthetics and makeup to make them look like humanoid animals. Not to mention, of course, every single outfit that Galinda wears. They are just full immaculate. One of my personal favourites is an Elphaba dress from Act 2. It is, from a distance, a long black, slightly lacy dress, but when you look closer, it has all these beads and details and swashes of colours like browns and deep blues and purples, and they have done so much with just a black witch's dress. Act 1 of Sweeney Todd finishes with two songs very close together. The first one is Epiphany, which is sung by Sweeney Todd. It is when his mind is completely cracked. He has nearly had his revenge against Judge Turpin, but been thwarted at the last moment. He is struggling simultaneously with his vengeance and rage, and his guilt and his grief. And it swings and it goes back and forth, and it's his clicking moment where Sweeney Todd, the personality, really just becomes this monstrous, murderous, rage-filled machine. And then we go to a song called A Little Priest. Sweeney Todd has killed his first victim and they are not sure what to do with the body, and then Mrs. Lovett has a great idea. She decides that, hey, why don't we just, cut him up and use the meat for the pies, because, well, my pies suck and meat is really expensive. Sweeney Todd cottons onto her idea, and then they actually have some fun with it. A Little Priest is fun for me because it's the first time Sweeney Todd has actually smiled, properly smiled and laughed since the beginning of the show. Now, given the subject matter that they are joking about, hey, try a little priest, try some greengrocer, is that squire on the fire? Let's eat all these different people, how would they taste? The subject matter is quite dark and the laughter is, well, it gives you an insight into the fact that he has now become very unhinged, and Mrs. Lovett clearly was unhinged already because she does not have a mental break but continues to joke about eating people anyway. Sweeney Todd, though, as the focus with this, it is delightful to actually see him. He's dancing around, he is laughing, he is having fun with Mrs. Lovett, and we end with them saying, yes, we'll serve anyone at all. And there's a big note, and they finish Act 1. Yeah, this is why I wanted Wicked to go second, because it's really unfair, because, the ending of Act 1 for Wicked is defying gravity. So Elphaba and Galinda have just met the Wizard of Oz. We have all discovered, along with her as the audience, that the Wizard of Oz is not what we were led to believe. He is actually a fraud, and he is actually quite evil. And Elphaba has been tricked into using her magic and has actually harmed a monkey, and she has given him wings and he is in pain, and she is feeling awful about this and has stood up to the wizard and now is in terrible trouble, and the guards are coming to get her. But instead of surrendering and saying that she is sorry, she is deciding to stand her ground. She invites Galinda to go with her, and they have a tender moment of friendship, which just makes you wonder, or at least makes me wonder, how the story might have played out differently if Galinda had got on the broom and gone with Elfie. But she doesn't. Galinda stays on the ground to try and do some good here, and Elphaba goes off. They each wish each other luck, and Elphaba rises into the air, defying gravity. The guards come on, the ensemble sings, Galinda is watching her go, she flies up into the sky, and that's it. The end of Act 1. Moving on to the antagonists. Now, Wicked has, I would argue, 3 antagonists, 2 major ones and 1 small one. These are, of course, the wonderful Wizard of Oz, Madame Morrible, and, I argue, Nessa Rose. Sorry. The Wizard of Oz is of course not wonderful at all. He is a fraud and a coward. He tricked Elphaba into using her magic for bad and evil means, and he consistently tells lies about her. He continues in this vein until the very end of the show, where he supposedly learns his lesson, but I'm not sure. Madame Morrible! Well, her name rhymes with horrible. Like, what did you expect? She is a sort of diluted version of Umbridge who is working with the wizard, essentially. That's Madame Morrible. And then we have Nessa Rose. Nessa Rose you do feel sorry for because, a bit like her sister Elphaba, you see her journey into becoming the slightly wicked witch that she becomes. She is a product of, unfortunately, her own disability, which has held her back in some ways. The fact that her sister Elphaba is the Wicked Witch of the West now, and she has that hanging over her conscience, she gets disappointed and heartbroken in love. She literally gets her heart stomped on by Bork and reacts very badly and very evilly, but nonetheless we do still understand why she does it. So Nessa Rose, a lesser antagonist, but nonetheless still a bit of an antagonist. Moving over to Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street. We have 2 main antagonists here. We have the Judge, Judge Turpin, and of course we have Beadle. Judge Turpin is responsible for every single death that happens over the course of Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street, including his own. If he had not lusted after Benjamin Barker's wife and set in motion a series of events to get rid of the husband so that he could, well, eventually guilt trip, manipulate, sexually assault and R-word the wife, driving her to poison herself and go insane, then nobody would have died and everyone could have just carried on living their happy, happy lives. But no, he was filled with lusty lust and had to have her. And so, yeah, drove her insane and she poisoned herself. And then he takes their daughter, raises her as his own, and when she gets old enough to be hot, he pervs on her and decides he's going to marry her, and then has the gall, nay, the audacity, to be shocked when his ward, who literally has grown up calling him father, is not really into the idea of marrying her dad. Mind blown. So we have Judge Turpin, who reaches Snape levels of obsessive grossness, and yeah, his creepy, slimy friend. So, antagonists, if that sways your vote towards Wicked or Sweeney Todd, vote down in the comments below. If you have not made your mind up yet, then we've still got a few different things we are going to talk about for each musical. Moving on then to the finale number, the last act, the last thing that happens in both shows, and we are going to start with Sweeney Todd. Tony has gone insane and murdered Sweeney Todd in cold blood. He then starts the ending refrain. It's a reprise. Attend the tale of Sweeney Todd. The one voice sings, and then the ensemble join in. The dead characters come back and everybody sings, and eventually Sweeney Todd and Mrs. Lovett, everybody joins in. Every single voice, every single member of the cast on the stage singing the tale of Sweeney Todd. They speak of him like a ghost. They speak of how you could have given a nod as you walked down the street to Sweeney Todd. And they talk about how vengeance is never the right thing to do, but Sweeney Todd did it the best of everybody. Wicked is actually in a similar vein when it comes to the finale. We have the last song, which is sung before the finale number, which is For Good, a very beautiful song between Elphaba and Galinda about their friendship, how far they have come, how much they have meant to each other, and of course at this point Galinda believes that Elphaba is about to die. It's probably the most touching and beautiful song in all of musical history. After the two girls have sung this song and Elphaba has been melted by Dorothy, Glinda and the rest of the ensemble sing a reprise of No One Mourns the Wicked. The ensemble citizens of Oz are singing Good News, She's Dead, and Glinda is singing how she wants to help and she wants to be better. She wants to really be the good witch. And then, of course, right at the end of the show, in comparison to the beginning where we were told the Wicked Witch of the West is dead and everyone is celebrating, now when we come full circle and get to the end of the story once again, we see the final twist. Spoiler alert for the end of Wicked! Fiyero, who has been transformed into a scarecrow by Elphaba's attempts to save his life, comes back onto the stage and opens a trap door. And then Elphaba emerges, not melted and not dead at all. She and Fiyero embrace, declare their love, and they leave Oz forever, leaving their old lives behind and are able to be together. And the last moment is them walking off towards the back of the stage into their brand new lives, and the rest of the ensemble singing about how glad they are that the Wicked Witch is dead. That wraps up the comparative information about the shows and how they happen. How they begin, how they end, that sort of thing. So now I'm going to talk about some fun facts, some hot takes, and some other recommendations. We're gonna start with my hot takes. Johnny Depp's version of Epiphany is actually terrific. Now, he is not as good as any Broadway singer and probably never will be, but he puts in the raw emotion. He goes from grieving and distraught over his wife and daughter, and then immediately switches to the "you sir, how about a shave?" the awful anger and hatred that he has towards the world at large, and then switches back. There are some stage actors I have seen who have performed Sweeney Todd, and they are singing beautifully, but they're lacking emotion. Which is really odd for a stage actor, but just singing the song well is not enough. You need to put the emotion into it. You need to be the character. Don't just sing pretty to me. Be emotional too. So I say Johnny Depp's version of Epiphany is really good. Hot take number 1 on Wicked now. And this is a very odd nitpick, but I've been watching Wicked a lot recently to do this video, and I've remembered it and noticed it, and I can't help it. The dragon clock thing, I can't remember its official name, the dragon clock, it's a really nice prop and I love watching it move, but it's pretty pointless for the show. It is referenced at the beginning when Glinda says that according to the dragon clock, the melting of the Wicked Witch occurred at XYZ time, and then at the end I think they mention it again. She didn't really melt, so why is the clock saying that she did? I'm confused. And also, it's just pretty... We don't need the dragon clock, sorry. Bouncing back to Sweeney Todd, because I've only got 2 hot takes and this is the second one for Sweeney Todd. Much as I enjoy the song A Little Priest, and I talked about it earlier, it's the finale of Act 1, personally I think it should either be moved to another part of the show or cut entirely. I'm sorry, ending on "We'll serve anyone," yeah, anyone at all, versus "But my Lucy lies in ashes, I will never see my girl again, but the work waits, I am alive at last and I'm full of joy." I think that is a bigger crescendoing huge moment, and for me, I think you could close the curtains right there and that could be the end of Act 1. I'm sorry, I like the song A Little Priest, but I prefer the song Epiphany. I think that's a better end for Act 1 of Sweeney Todd. Skipping back over to Wicked for another hot take here. I don't think the Wizard of Oz needs to be Elphaba's father. That's just an unnecessary extra thing that never really goes anywhere. Elphaba never finds out. The only person who finds out is Glinda when she finds the green bottle that Elphaba said was a gift from her mother, recognises that the wizard has the same one, and at the very end of the show, after Elphaba is dead, she tells the wizard that he did have a daughter after all. And then he's sad, and nothing happens with it. I just think it's a very... yeah, it's an unnecessary plot point that doesn't really go anywhere, so it could be cut and the show would be just the same. And my final hot take for Wicked is kind of a dumb one, but it just got me because I've been watching a lot of totally legal copies of Wicked on the internet and comparing them, but Elphaba's entrance is kind of lackluster for me. She kind of just appears and leads the students of Shiz University singing Dear Old Shiz. I think they should change that. I think her entrance would have more impact. I think it would be more suited to Elphaba's character if instead of randomly coming on to just lead the students in Dear Old Shiz, the students do that themselves. The ensemble can totally handle that. The students sing Dear Old Shiz, Glinda comes on with all her luggage, and as everyone's looking at Glinda, Elphaba comes in, she's green, oh my god, green, 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 and then she does the whole, right, let's get this over with, yes, I'm green, blah, 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 oh, and here's my sister, she's a perfectly normal colour. I just think Elfie deserves a better entrance than stumbling into a song. But hey, that's just my hot take, and I am done with hot takes now, so let's talk about fun facts. Starting with Wicked then, a fun fact, in the novels that Wicked was based on, Fiyero and Elphaba actually go on to have a son. His name is Liir, it's spelled L-I-I-R, so I'm gonna say Liir. But yeah, they go on to have a son. Oh yeah, and the ruby slippers are silver. And a fun fact about Sweeney Todd. So while I was researching Sweeney Todd, I was looking up the original play and then the Penny Dreadful serial, The String of Pearls, which is where the character of Sweeney Todd first came into being. And from what I could discover, the Sweeney Todd from A String of Pearls murdered people in a slightly different chain of events. So the Sweeney Todd that we know, the barber slashes someone's throat, hits the pedal, the chair tips them, and they go down into the cellar where they get baked into pies. However, the Sweeney Todd of the Penny Dreadful serial actually seems to have hit the lever, sent them backwards down the chair into the cellar where they would smash their skulls open or break their neck. And then, if they survived the fall, that is when the barber would use his razor and slit their throat. So it looks as if it was sort of the other way around, and he was ever so slightly possibly less bloodthirsty, you could argue, because he doesn't do it himself. He just sort of sends them down to smash and then finishes the job if necessary. So still a mass murderer, but a slightly different way of doing things. Fun facts for you all, there you go. So there you are, we have Wicked and we have Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street. Which musical would you like to vote for as your winner, as your number one, as the best musical of all time, according to the Chaos Jellyspoons of MaukusNoise's channel? Well, you can vote now down in the comments below. Voting will close at the end of the week, and I will do a special one-off video that will tell you who the winner was. Of course, every single musical that has been on this list, all 20 that we started with, are fantastic, and you should definitely go and look them all up. However, to close off this video, I would like to give you some recommendations. So please do go look at the 20 musicals that started on this list. I will put those in the video description down below, and I'll try and throw in as many links to where you can find them on the internet as possible. But here are some extra musicals that did not make it onto the original list, but I do think you will enjoy if you are a fan of either of these shows. If you enjoy the relationship dynamics, the love triangle, and the very morally grey decision-making of Wicked, you will definitely like Cabaret. It's quite a bit darker in places and it is older, but there is a fantastic movie version with Liza Minnelli in it. Highly recommend checking out Cabaret. If you really enjoy Galinda as a character and you're into female-fronted musicals, highly recommend Legally Blonde. You can watch the entire thing on YouTube because MTV filmed it and that is up. You can easily find Legally Blonde. It sounds dumb and in places it is, but I swear to you, it is a powerhouse of a musical. Go watch it. It is entertaining, it is heartbreaking, it's brilliant. If you enjoy the costumes, Galinda's dresses in particular, the power dynamics, and the spectacle of Wicked, I would also recommend a very old but very good one, The King and I. Very interesting little musical. You can probably find clips of it online, and there is a DVD as well. Check it out, The King and I. And finally, if you like Wicked, I would also recommend Anastasia, the musical. You may have watched the movie, the stage show is just as good. Highly recommend checking out Anastasia as well. Shifting over then to Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street. If you enjoy Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street, please check out The Little Shop of Horrors. You will definitely enjoy this. It is a man-eating killer plant that takes over pretty much the world. Yeah, you'll enjoy that. If you like gore and gothic darkness in your musicals, you will also enjoy Repo, the genetic opera. I have cosplayed the grave robber from this. It is a very strange musical, but hey, Sweeney Todd started being very different to what most musicals were at the time, so highly recommend checking out Repo, the genetic opera. It is available on DVD. Similar vein, because it was made by the same people, we also have The Devil's Carnival, an amazing show. There are loads of clips on the internet. I will chuck some of them down below. Really recommend checking out a clip called The Scorpion and the Frog. Wonderful little song, fantastically performed, so check that one out from The Devil's Carnival. Sticking with the Tim Burton feel, I would also recommend checking out Beetlejuice. If you enjoyed Sweeney Todd, you will almost definitely enjoy the chaos and death shenanigans that is Beetlejuice, the musical, as well. And now for a complete generalization. If you enjoyed Sweeney Todd, or pretty much any musical to be fair, you will love every European musical out there, particularly if it is gothic, particularly if it's about vampires. just any and all of them. We've got Mozart the musical, we've got Vampire Rock, we've got the Swedish Jesus Christ Superstar, we've got the German Wicked, which is coming out, just European musicals in general. They're gothic, they're gay as hell, they're amazing, just, yeah, look up European musicals, you will not be disappointed. Well, that is a wrap for this week's Monday Madness, Jellyspoons. Thank you for sticking with me on this 4-part musical series where we discover which the best musical of all time is. Chuck your comments down below. Would you like to vote for Sweeney Todd or Wicked? I will count your votes up at the very end of the week. Have an amazing time, Jellyspoons. If you'd like to support me, I have a Ko-fi and a Patreon, and of course commissions as well. Stay safe, have an amazing week, spread some chaos. I will see you soon, Jellyspoons. Goodbye!